Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all of your emotions, thoughts, fears, all things within your consciousness, all demonic thought, all the seeds of Satan, all that's sown throughout the week, throughout your cell phone, throughout your computers, throughout your laptops, throughout television, all the things, all the seeds that have been sown in your mind, all the hatred, jealousy, envy, complaining, mumbling, grumbling, fornication, adultery, hatred, crude joking, thoughts of malicious thoughts, all these things within one's thought process and within one's consciousness that can go from their belly to their mouth and from their mind to their belly. And I want to breathe out lies or to breathe out truth. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us as another Shabbat to cease from our work and our selfish self, our outer man and our outer desires, our outer wants, and our outer comprehension and the wisdom of this world. For we live in this world, we are not of it. So today is a day that we honor the one who sits on the sapphire throne. We honor his life and his son's life that he lived on earth to redeem man, an undeserving man, Adam, from the corruption of death. Through his blood that he shed through Yahushua Mashiach, through the blood that he shed in his life that he's given to us in our inner man and our inner being. So today we acknowledge the one who made all the heart of the earth, all of the Nahar, the rivers and streams on top of the earth and under the earth, the one who made all of the stones and the sapphires and all of the onyx stones and all of the precious jewels and gold and silver and all these things that man has monetized to enslave man. The one who gives life and understanding to our inner man and our inner being and all the plants and creatures of the earth and all of the things that exist outside in the Rakia, in the firmament, all the way to the first Shamayim, all the way to the seventh, even past the 13th Shamayim, even to where Yahuwah sits on his throne with his Ben Yahusha, whom now he said, all power is given unto me in Shamayim and earth, to present Yahuwah a kingdom, a Malkuth. He said he's going to build a kingdom. On this rock, I'm going to build a Malkuth, a kingdom. So we live in this world, and we understand that we must live in righteousness and purity of mind and all the fruits that he wants us to bear, Yahuwah's fruits. And when those fruits bear and that faithfulness increase, and then that gentleness comes, that self-control comes within one's thoughts. And you have self-control over your every single attribute of your inner man and your inner being. So as we move forward in kindness, sahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. We move forward in the understanding of being of who we are as a being on this earth. Right. So this is the book of Psalms, chapter 86. Psalms Tahalim, chapter 86. Psalms Tahalim, chapter 86, and verse 1. Psalms 86 and 1. Tahalim, Psalms 86 and 1. It says, incline your ear, O Yahuwah, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. So we say, I am poor and needy. Right? Going to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 1. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 1. Going from Psalms 86 to Matthew chapter 5, verse 1. It says, and seeing the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, Barak is the poor in Ruach, and for theirs is the Malkuth of Shamayim. He said, I'm poor and needy. And he said, Barak are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Right? So all that takes place when you say you poor and need Yahuwah. That's how fast he will move if you are his child. Right? That's how he moves when he understands. He said, I need you. Right? Going back to Psalms 86 and 1, Tahalim, chapter 86 and 1. It says, incline your ear, O Yahuwah, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly. Right? He said, I am righteous. Right? Save your servant, because all the children of Yasharal are servants. We are Abyd. We got an iron in the middle on the first thing that we do. We got a seed. He say, save your servant who trusts in you. You are my Elohim. He said, save your servant whom trusts in you. He said, what do you mean trust? He said, we trust in him, right? We trust in him, right? They're going to Psalms chapter 3, verse 1. Tahalim, this is the book of Psalms. Tahalim chapter 3, verse 1. Tahalim chapter 3, verse 1. Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. O Yahuwah, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me, right? So you think about that. You think about Yahushua on the totality. Think about when he came on the earth. He said, marvel not that the world hate you, for they hated me before they hated you. So what do you think they're going to rise? When do things rise out of the ground? When do the plants come up from the ground? They come up in the summertime, queets. And it says, many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him. In Elohim, he said, if you trust in Yahuwah, he said, Yahuwah, I'm needy. I need you. So therefore, but you, O Yahuwah, are a shield about me. He said, what? He said, you are a shield. You know how he says? You are a shield, right? My kabod and the lifter of my head. He said, you are my great one, and you are the lifter of my head. I cried aloud to Yahuwah, and he answered me from his Qahalath hill, right? So he answered me, right? So this is going to the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, Ephesians chapter 4, Ephesians chapter 4, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 17. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 17. And it says, now this I say and testify in Yahuwah, that you must no longer walk as the Goyim, the Gentiles do. He said, don't even walk like them. In the futility of their minds. It means worthless minds. That's what futility means. It means worthless. They have a worthless mind. It says, they are darkened in their understanding. He said, they are darkened in their understanding. There be none. He said, they're darkened. Why? Alienated from the life of Elohim because of the ignorance that is in them, due to the hardness of heart. He says, due to the hardness of heart. So therefore, he said, how many are my foes that surround me? And then he said, but Yahuwah, you are my shield, and you are the lifter of my head. You know what he says? They have become callous and have given themselves up to sensuality, greedy, and practice of every kind of impurity. But that is not the way you learn Mashiach. You know how people say, that's not the way I learned him. Assuming that you have heard about him and were taught in him, as the truth is in Yahushua, to put off the old self, which belongs to your former manner in a former manner of life, in a corrupt through a deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. He said, in the what? In the spirit, the ruach of your minds. And to put on the new self, created after the likeness of Elohim in true righteousness and Qahalath. Right? He said, put it on. He said, so why would you do that? He said, in the ruach of your mind. Because that's where it all starts at. It's all in your consciousness. It's in your seven eyes. It's in your mind. It's all in there. It's always been there. Right, going to Ephesians 6. Ephesians 6 and verse 10. Ephesus chapter 6 and verse 10. Ephesus chapter 6 and verse 10. It says, finally, be strong in Yahuwah and in the strength of his might. So let the weak say I'm strong. He says what? In the strength of his koach. He says a man or woman enhances their might. He said a wise man is strong, but a man or woman increases knowledge and enhances their koach. Be strong in Yahuwah. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of Satan. What do you mean the schemes? He got a lot of schemes. He got a scheme for a female. He got some schemes coming up for a female that's coming up. He said when the cog is over, he got a bunch of schemes to pull all this seed out of your head, pull all the thoughts out of your mind, to pull out the behaviors that one needs to manifest to bear the fruit, to want to keep one at Yahushua's feet. He got schemes. He got a bunch of schemes. He said, I'm gonna get her. That's how he think. I'm gonna get her. And I'm gonna get him. He got schemes for a man. He got schemes for everybody. And you got what he said, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of Satan. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against rulers, archons, against authorities, magistrates, against cosmic powers over this present darkness, Leviathan, the reptiles, attacks of the reptilians, reptiles, and all these other beings, and Okoros, and Atum, and Asmodeus, and Asmodee, and Asabi, and Asabi, right, and Barbados, and Barkhan, and Baseda. Right, you got a whole bunch of beings out here that you got to fight. You got to get ready to go against. If you say, I don't want to fight, then guess what? Get ready to be tricked by Aldi and Adal. You're gonna have, and guess what? And all those beings gonna have you wondering what just happened, right? And all these things are happening, right? But it says right here, rulers against authorities, against cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places, right? They are there. They are there, right? They are there. Therefore, take on the whole armor of Yahuwah. So he said, you're going to need it, that you may be able to withstand against the evil day, because it's coming, the raw day. You know, that day you be thinking like, ain't nothing going to happen today. You know, that day that you think everything going to be good, la la la, right? You're going to be not paying attention, and then guess what? Not going to have your eyes open, not going to be watching, and that evil day going to come. And guess what? And having done all to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth. Isn't that what you're supposed to have when you came out of Mizraim? And having put on the breastplate of righteousness. In that way, it'll be our righteousness if we keep his commandments. And having shoes on your feet. And then supposed to have your regal, your feet clean with your sandals on your feet. Having put on readiness to get, it says readiness given by the truth of peace. Right? You got to put on readiness. He said, he said, Yahushua told you to watch and be ready, dressed for action. This is all his stuff. And then he says, in all circumstances, take up the shield of Amunah, because Yahuwah is your shield. He's like, many are my foes that are against me. He said, do you know how many spirits are with Abunalek? About 3,500. About 3,000. He said, you ready? And he said right here, the shield of Amunah, because you're going to need Amunah. Because people say, I don't need Amunah. Amunah is something that people have to mix in with their belief. They have to have that type of belief. It says, in which you have extinguished all the flaming darts of the evil one. That's what you need a shield. That's why you need Yahuwah. He said, Yahuwah, you my shield, right? And take the helmet of salvation. You got to protect your mind. You got to be renewed in the ruach of your mind. You got to be renewed in your 12 cranial nerves, in your 12 melon centers, in your frontal lobe, in your frontal lobe, in your 7 eyes. You got to be renewed in the ruach of your mind. Why do you think all this information coming? It's for you to be ready and dress for action. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the ruach. He said, I need to, man, his word, he said it was like smooth as butter, but it was like drawn swords. He said it was like smooth as butter, like drawn swords. It's like war was in his heart. And get what it says. Which the word of Yahuwah praying at all times in the ruach. You need to be renewed in the ruach of your mind. We need all times, morning, noon, evening, second, third watch, first watch, 8 prayer watch. He said, just praying all the time. Why? Because prayer and supplication, that's for other people too. It says, to that end, keep alert. Keep watch. Eyes open. Stay awake. Iron, all the way through 364. He said, keep watch, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all Kadashim and also for me. He's like, look at here. Look at here. That the words may be given to me and opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the truth. He said, people don't care about that. How you say? Men and women don't care about that no more. And he says, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. Right? Going to Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. Going back to Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. O Yahuwah, how many are my foes? It going forever. Many are rising against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him or her. In Yahuwah Elohim, But you, O Yahuwah, are a shield about me. He's like, look at here. And kabod, and lifter of my head, I cried aloud to Yahuwah, and he answered me from his Kudash hill, Selah. I lay down and slept, I woke again. He's like, I lay down and I slept, and I woke again. For Yahuwah sustained me. And I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. He said, I ain't afraid. I don't care if you got 1,000 people, many thousands. You say, why? You know why he says that? It says, arise, O Yahuwah, and save my Elohim. But he said, I was not afraid. He said, I slept and I woke again, right? You know what he said? I slept and I woke again. Going to Luke or Yah, chapter 24, verse 40. Luke chapter 24, verse 36. 36. He says, and as they were talking about these things, Yahushua stood among them and said to them, Shalom to you. But they were startled and frightened and thought that they saw a ruach. This is the fourth day since this thing happened, right? He said, since this happened. And he says, saw a ruach. And he said to them, why are you troubled? And why do you arise in why do doubts arise in your heart? Right? Just like he says. He said, why do doubts arise in your heart? See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see, for a ruach does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. He said, a ruach don't have flesh and bones as you see I have. He said, do you see a ruach have a flesh and bone like this? He said, what you see right here? We said, what are they looking at when they looking at him? When they see that a ruach don't have flesh and bones, right? And then it said right here, he says, see that I have, it says, you don't see a flesh and bone. It says, for a ruach does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have. And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they still disbelieved for joy and were marveling, because people still ain't got no joy, he said to them, have you anything here to eat? And then people say, what did he eat during Chag Matsah? Because it's still Chag Matsah. I wonder. Let me guess. Yahushua woke up and you know what? Give me some flesh. Give me some animal flesh. Right? Give me something. No. He woke up from Chag Matsah and he woke up. He was laying down, just like we read in the Psalms. He said, I went to sleep and I woke up again. He said, many are my foes that are against me when he woke up out of the grave. But guess what he said? And they gave him a piece of, they say a piece of broiled fish. You actually believe that in Chag Matsah, when Yahushua rose from the grave, they gave him broiled fish and put it in their hand. You think that's what he gave him? During Chag Matsah, from getting up from the grave? That's what you believe? You know, people say, I believe that. I believe. And he took it and he ate before them, right? You think that's what he gave him? And then he said to them, these are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you. And everything written about me in the Turah, in the law, and the Nabi'im, and the Psalms must be fulfilled, right? So this is the Nazarenes, the truth of the Nazarenes, the gospel of the Nazarenes. Truth of the Nazarenes, chapter 87, Gospel of the Nazarenes, chapter 87, verse 1. Chapter 87, verse 1. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut. Now this is a whole nother thing, right? Now this is interesting. This is a whole nother account. But it said right here, where the disciples assembled for fear of the Pharisees, came Yahusha and stood in the midst and said to them, Shalom be to you. But they were afraid and supposed they had seen a Ruach. And he said to them, Behold, it is I myself. Right, because it was that evening, going towards the fourth day. Like yesterday was the third day, now we're in the fourth day. And guess what he said? And this happened at an evening time on the fourth day. And it says, when the doors were shut, when the disciples were assembled for fear of the Pharisees, came Yahusha and stood in the midst. And he said to them, Shalom be to you, unto you. But they were afraid and supposed they had seen a Ruach. And he said to them, Behold, it is I myself, as you have seen me aforetime. A Ruach, a spirit can indeed appear in flesh and bones as you see. Behold my hands and my feet, and handle and see. And when he had so said, he showed them his hands and his side. And then were the disciples glad and saw Yahusha. For Thomas, called Didymus, had said to them, Except I see his hands and print of nails, and thrust my hands in his side, I will not believe. Then said he to Thomas, Behold my hands and my side and my feet. Place here your hands, and be not faithless but believing. And Thomas answered and said, Mashiach. And Yahusha said to him, Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Because you are they that have not, blessed Barak are they who have seen but still believe. It says, Then said Yahusha to them, Again, Shalom be unto you. As Abba Amah, he said, Father and mother have sent me, even so I send you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, Receive the Ruach Qahalath. Right? He breathed on them, right? The only reason I went there, because remember, he got up from the grave. He said, I was asleep. He said, I was asleep in the book of Psalms. And then I woke again. Didn't he say that? Right, go in the book of Bereshit, chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2. Bereshit chapter 2. Bereshit chapter 2 and verse 4. Actually, Bereshit chapter 2 and verse 5. It says, And when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for Yahuwah had not caused it to rain on the land. And there was no man to work the ground. And a mist was going up from the land, it was watering the whole face of the ground. Then Yahuwah Elohim formed Adam from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. That's what it said. But then when he woke from the grave, he was sleeping, and he said, told the woman, Don't touch me not. And then he arose, and amazingly, he breathed on them, and he said, Receive the Ruach Qahalath. Didn't he say that? But why did he do that? He was dead, and now he alive. He was sleeping, and now he awoke. Right, going back to the book of Psalms, chapter 3, verse 1. Psalm chapter 3, verse 1. Psalm chapter 3, chapter 3, verse 4. It says, I cried aloud to Yahuwah, and he answered me from his Qahalath hill. I lay down and slept, and I woke again. For Yahuwah sustained me. Right? So here we're going back to Bereshit chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2 in verse Genesis chapter 2 verse 2 and 7. Then Yahuwah Elohim formed man, Adam, from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. Right? He did all that, right? Going to Bereshit 2 and 7. So that word for Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, right? Really quick. Bereshit chapter 2, verse 7. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. It says, And Yahuwah Elohim formed Adam from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Right? That's what it says, right? So here we go. This is 2 and 7. And Yahuwah Elohim formed man, Adam, from the Adamah, that word for breathe is nafak. I mean, Yahushua said, I'm going to breathe on you. I'm going to breathe. He breathed on them. He breathed. He said to block, to breathe, to blow. He snipped, to seize. But it also means to be blown, to kindle, to scatter. Right? He breathed on them. He nafak, and then he says right here, he breathed on it in their nostrils, the off. He said breathing, he breathed into his nostrils the off, right? The off is nose, his face, his anger. In his nostrils of a person. It also means long suffering, right? But all that's a part of it. Then he says, 2 and 7 says, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath. That word for breath is neshama. He breathed into his nostrils the breath. That neshama is breath, ruach, the spirit. Spirit, it means what? Wind, breath, intellect, inspiration. Right? It also means an animal, because you can breathe into a man, an animal too. It has the same thing. But it said right here, breathe, breath of man, every breathing thing. The spirit of man. He said he breathed in the neshama in them. And what else he breathed in them? He said breath of life. He said he breathed in them the breath of life. That word for breath, life is kai. It means living, alive. He said I went to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, and then now I'm alive again. And I woke up. I went to sleep and I woke up again. And Yahuwah sustained me. How did Yahuwah sustain Adam? Right here, when he was sleeping. When Adam was sleeping right here, how did he sustain him? By his neshama, by his ruach, by his breath. And he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and he arose from the grave on the 3rd day. That's what he did. That's what he did. He did all that. That's what Yahuwah did to him. And he sustained him. Right? And it says right here, and it says, Kai, it means what? It also means living alive. It also means he breathed in him the breath of life. Living thing, animals. Right? But also, it also means a lot of other things. But it says right here, the breath of life, and man became a living, right? So living, that's Kai, again, living soul. Lefesh. He became a living soul. Yahushua became a living soul. He went to sleep dead. He went to sleep. I went to sleep and I woke again. I was in there for 3 days and 3 nights, and Yahuwah sustained me, and he woke me back up again. He breathed into my nostrils the breath of life, and amazingly, I'm doing the same thing for you. And it said right here, that word for nefesh is the soul. He said, you don't see a ruach, they got flesh and bones like I do. You see a ruach, they got flesh and bones like I do. And it says, soul, life, creature, person, appetite, mind. Amazing, when he got up, he said, you got any food? Didn't he not say that? He said, I'm a living nefesh again. Yahuwah gave me life again. And it also means emotion, passion. It says what? Living being. The man himself. He said, this is Yahushua himself again. Right? And it says right here, seat of appetite, seat of emotions. Obvious. He said breathing, right? So we look at all that. He said, so how is he able to give life to other people when he was in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights? He gets up and he's able to breathe on other people, the ruach HaKodesh, and he give them life, right? He said, how is that even possible? He said, how was that even possible? How is that even possible, right? Right. So this is the book of Matthew. I think it's John. Yeah, book of John, Yukonon, chapter 5, verse 24. And he did all this on the 4th day. That's today. He did this today. He said, Yukonon 5, 24. He said, truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my debar and believes him who sent me, who sent him? His Father has eternal life. But they were still disbelieving on the 4th day. He got up from the grave at the 3rd day at night. He told Mary Magdalene, he told the 2 men They still doubted. He met them in the house at evening time at Arab on the 4th day, which is today. And guess what he did? He breathed on them the breath of life, and they still were doubting. He said, receive the Ruach, and they still were doubting in their mind. And he says right here, truly I said to you, whoever believes, whoever hears my debar, you got to hear it, believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. He said, you passed from death to life. Then he just said, we just read in the book of Psalms, he just said that I was sleeping and I awoke again. And Yahuwah sustained me. When Adam was in a death-like state, when he wasn't even formed yet. He was made from dead soil, and he breathed into Adam the breath of life, the neshama kai nefesh. And guess what happened? He passed from death to life. He rose him from the grave, from the dirt, from the Adama. And then he said, truly, truly, I said to you, an hour is coming and is now here, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and those who hear will live. Ruach neshama kai nefesh. They're going to hear it. They're going to say, he said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. And how do you receive the Ruach Qahalath? What's the word for receive? Yad. Open right hand. Receive the Ruach Qahalath. And guess what he said? And you will live. A man became a living soul. For as the Father has life in himself, who sustained him? We just read in the book of Psalms. Who sustained me when I went to sleep and I woke up again? When you woke up today, when you went to sleep and woke up again today, you resurrected today after you went to sleep last night, and you resurrected and you woke up today. Who woke you up? Who sustained you in the middle of the night to allow you to have breath today? Who did that? Yahuwah did that. For the Father, Abba has life in himself, so he has granted the Son also to have life in himself. That's why when he got up on the 3rd day, when he appeared to them on this day, on the 4th day, he said he breathed on them the breath of life. He said, receive the Ruach Qahalath, because I had life in me. Yahuwah sustained me when I was 3 days and 3 nights, and I rose from the grave, and guess what? Receive the Ruach Qahalath. I can say the same thing to you. And then when you should see yourself in this manner every single day when you go to the sleep, because all that immersion to Yahuwah should have put him on, and you wake up, Yahuwah sustain you in the middle of the night, and you should be able to breathe out the Ruach. You should be able to speak every single day. And here's what it says. And he has given him authority to execute judgment because he is the son of Abyd. Do not marvel at this. He said, man, we still trying to figure this out. Do not marvel at it, for an hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear his voice, and come out. Those who have done good to the resurrection of life. Oh, you mean the resurrection of life? Kai nefesh, a living soul. What do you think Adam was in? He was in the grave. And he said, Kai nefesh. He said, receive the neshama kai nefesh. Receive the Ruach Qahalath. And you're going to rise from the grave. And you know what he says? And those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. He said, I'm going to raise you up too. But just to have some things for everybody else, the Qadashim to judge. But all that's a part of it. But it says right here, he says right here, go to Bereshit chapter 2. Actually, yeah, Bereshit chapter 2. Bereshit chapter 2. Bereshit chapter 2. Watch. Bereshit chapter 2, verse 18. Then Yahuwah Elohim said, it is not good that Adam should be alone. And I will make him a helper, a Nazar fit for him. Now out of the ground, the Adama, Yahuwah Elohim had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the Shamaim, and brought them to the Adam to see what he would call them. So he made them from the very same thing. Neshama kai nefesh. He made them with the same thing. And then he said, what? And he said, what? Every bird of the Shamayim, and brought them to the man to see what he would call him. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was his name. Then the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the Shamayim, and to every beast of the field. But to Adam, the man done from the red clay, there was not found a helper fit for him, a Nazar. So Yahuwah caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. We read in the book of Psalms. He said, I went to sleep, and I woke again, and Yahuwah sustained me. He did that. He said, I went to sleep, and I woke again, and Yahuwah sustained me. And get what he said? So Yahuwah caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and while he slept, he took one of his Selah, his ribs, and closed up its flesh, closed up the place with his flesh. While I was sleeping, he sustained me. Yahuwah sustained me while I was sleeping. And I woke again. I was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, and guess what happened? I woke again. And guess what happened after that? I said, and the rib that Yahuwah Elohim had formed, taken from Adam, he made into a woman, and he shot and brought her to the man. Then the man said, this is at last bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Did he wake up and say, I want to eat flesh? I want to eat some flesh. No, he said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called Isha. Because she was taken out of the man. When she was taken out of the man? While he slept. While he was sleeping. That's when it happened. Then Yahuwah resurrected him again and brought him back to life. And he said, what you say? And guess what happened? Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother. Then we just read in the Nazarene, as my Amma has sent me, so I send you. He says, therefore a man shall leave father and mother and hold fast to his Isha, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, were not ashamed. This pattern has been taking place since the beginning. He's always been giving life. He said, as the Son had life in himself, so he give you life, give life to other people. Right, going back to Yuchanan. Verse 5, John chapter 5, verse 30. John chapter 5, verse 30. John chapter 5, verse 30. It says, I can do nothing on my own. Yahushua said, I can do nothing on my own. But us as human beings, we say we can do it on our own. We say that. We say, we can do it on our own. Yahushua said, I can't do this on my own. You know why he can't do it on his own? He said, I need a helper that's fit for me. It's not good that man should be alone. You know what he says? As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. He said, I don't seek my own will. And get what he said? If I alone bear witness about myself, my testimony is not true. He like, if I bear witness about myself, then my testimony ain't true. How many people was there with Adam when he was in the garden? When he was there with the animals, right? He was there with Yahuwah called a deep sleep. Yahuwah was there. He caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, sustained him while he was sleeping. Then he woke him again. Then he put it in another woman. There's a woman was there, right? It was a whole bunch of people was there. If he only declares, if he alone bears witness about himself, his testimony would not even be true. It would not even be true. Therefore, is another who bears witness about me, and I know that the testimony that he bears about me is true. You sent to Yahuchanan, and he has borne witness to the truth. Not the testimony that I receive is, he says, not that the testimony that I receive is from man, but I say these things so that you may be saved. He was a burning and a shining lamp. He was a what? He was a what? The man was a manure. He was literally a near. And you were willing to rejoice for a while in his light. He's like, but the testimony that I have is greater than that of Euchanan. For the works that the Father has given me to accomplish, the very works that I am doing, bear witness about me that the Father has sent me. We just read in Bereshit chapter 2, you see how the Abba sent Adam. You see all the stuff he had. And he had in the shower with him. He had animals. You see Yahuwah sustained him. All these things were there. And they all bear witness that the Father, Yahuwah, sent him. And he couldn't even name the animals without Yahuwah there. And you know what he said? And the Father who sent me has himself borne witness about me. And guess what it says? His voice you have never heard. His form you have never seen. And you do not have his word abiding in you. For you do not believe the one whom he has sent. He like, you know what he says after that? Verse 39. He said, you don't believe the one he sent. He said, you search the scriptures then, because you think that in them you have eternal life. And it is they that bear witness about me. He said, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. How? What do you mean? He said that you may have life. You refuse to come to me that you might have life. Who was given life in the beginning? Who was giving life to Adam and the gun out of the dust of the ground and down? Who was giving life to the woman when he took her out of his side? Who was giving life? Who gave Adam life after he went to sleep? After he formed him the first time, raised him from the dead. Then he put him back to sleep the second time. And then he came back alive again. Who did that? I do not receive kabod from people. He said, I ain't getting nothing from people. He said, how many are my foes? We just read that. How many are my foes? But I know that you do not have the love of Yahuwah within you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me with your right hand, your yod. You know how you say your yod? That's what right hand mean receive. He says, if another comes in his own name, you will receive him. He said, they come in anybody else's name? He said, well, you'll take that. He said, take that. You'll receive it. You know, they say receive. How can you believe when you receive kabod from one another, and do not seek the kabod that comes from only Elohim? He said, verse 45, do not think I will accuse you to the Father. He said, I ain't going to do it. He said, I'm not going to do it. There is one who accuses you, Mashah, on whom you have set your hope. He's like, you put your whole hope in Mashah. For if you believe Mashah, you would believe me. For he wrote about me. But if you do not believe in his writings, how will you believe my words? Going to Luke chapter 24. Luke chapter 24, verse 45. Luke 24, verse 45. Right. Go to verse 37. Actually, going to verse 44. It says, then he said to them, these are my words that I spoke unto you while I was still with you. Right? This is on the 4th day of Chag Matsah. That everything written about me in the Torah of Mashah and the Navi'im and the Psalms of Tahalim must be fulfilled. We just read in the book of Psalms. We just read in the book of Bereshit. Right? And then you get what it says. Then he opened their minds to understand the scripture. What do you mean open their mind? What do you mean open it? Right? That word for going back to Bereshit 2 and 7. And he said he breathed into his nostrils and breathed into the man. He said breathed into man, man became a living soul. But that word for breathe is neshama. What did he breathe? What did he open their mind with? He breathed into his neshama, his breath, his divine inspiration, his intellect, his inspiration. He was talking about his inspiration the whole time. He said, I didn't come in my own name. My inspiration comes from Yahuwah himself. And all the intellect I get come from him. And I'm giving it to you. And I'm putting it in your mind. I'm opening your understanding with it. But he said, let me say right here, verse 45, then he opened their minds to understand the Torah, the scriptures, and said to them, thus it is written that Mashiach should suffer on the third day and rise from the dead. How he going to rise from the dead? Because Yahuwah going to sustain him after he go to sleep. And he going to rise again. And guess what happened? He going to breathe into his nostrils, then the Shama, and he going to become Kai Nefesh. He going to become a living soul. He said, you see not a Ruach have flesh and bone like me, because this is my Nefesh that you see. You know that Nefesh before Adam fell? You know that Nefesh, that body, that perfect body that's supposed to appear before Yahuwah without any type of contaminants. You know that body. That inner soul, that Nefesh, right? And it said right here, thus it is written that Mashiach should suffer and on the third day rise from the dead, and that repentance for the forgiveness of sins should be proclaimed in his name to all people, all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. And behold, I am sending the promise of my Father upon you, but stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high. We need power. He said clothed. Because remember, they were still doubting him. He said receive the Ruach, but they were still doubting. He said, okay, stay in Jerusalem until you be clothed with power. What do you mean power? All right, so this is the book of, this is the book of, all right, so this is the book of Joel, Yahuwah, Joel. This book of Joel. Actually, Book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 2. 2 and 1. Book of Joel, Yahuwah, chapter 2, verse 1. It says, blow the Turah in Saum. Sound the alarm, or the cut the Sarah on Himakudash mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of Yahuwah is coming, it is near. A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Like blackness, there is spread upon the mountains. What happens when you get a thick, dark cloud? You get rain. Rain. Storms. What's that for? As rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so did the Barbie that goes out of my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish what I sent it to do. So therefore, when it comes down, when the rain comes down, that's his word going to all nations. And get what it says. A great and powerful people, there like has never been before, nor ever will be after them, through the years of all generations. Fire devours before them, a great and powerful people. He says a powerful people that's going to be here, right? He said a powerful people. So this is the Ascension of Yeshayahu, Giz edition. Ascension of Yeshayahu, Giz edition. In verse, this is Ascension of Yeshayahu, Giz edition. Page 18. Chapter 1. Actually, chapter 3, verse 14. Chapter 3, verse 14. And the 12 who were with him should be offended because of him. Let's go to verse 13. It says, for Balaam was great in wrath against Yeshayahu by reason of the vision, and because of the exposure wherewith he had exposed Samael, he exposed Satan. So what happens when Balaam, Satan, he's exposing other beings, right? And because through him the going forth of the beloved from the 7 Shamayim had been made known, and his transformation and his descent, and the likeness into which he should be transformed, that is the likeness of man, Adam, and the persecution wherewith he should be persecuted, and the tortures therewith the children of Yasharal should torture him. He said, that's what we did. He said, we tortured this man. And get what it says. And the coming of his 12 disciples, and the teaching, and that and that he should before the Shabbat be crucified. Huh? Oh, you mean before the first day of Chag Matsah? He said before the Shabbat he should be crucified upon the tree, and should be crucified together with wicked men. Oh. And that he should be buried in the sepulchre before the first day of Chag Matsah. This is the 4th day since that happened. And get what happened? And the 12 who were with him should be offended because of him, and the watch of those who watched the scepter. You know how they didn't believe when he rose. Women came, they were like, we don't believe you. We know what type of woman, we know what you did. We don't believe women like that. And it says, and the descent of the Malach of the Malach of, and it says right here, this is a Christian church. I don't know why they got that in here, but that's interesting. It says, which is in the Shamaims, it says, which is in the Shamaims, whom he will summon in the last days. And it says, and that Gabaral, the Malach of the Kudash Ruach, and Mikal, the chief of the Kudash Malachim, on the 3rd day will open the scepter. Huh? He said, who was that at the front of the scepter and at the bottom of the scepter? One was at the top and one was at the bottom. He said, well, who these 2 men in white apparel sitting at the top of the scepter and at the bottom, and the top and the bottom? And it said right here, and the beloved sitting on their shoulders will come forth and send out his 12 shalakim. Say what? And they will teach all nations. Then he said, as rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so did the Barbie that go out of my mouth. It shall accomplish what he sent to do. Right? And it said right here, and they will teach all nations in every tongue of the resurrection of the beloved. And those who believe in his totality, his cross, will be saved, and in his ascension unto the 7th Shamayim, whence he came. He said, why stand ye here gazing in the Shamayim, right? For the same Yahusha, whom you see go up in the Shamayim, will come back in like manner. He went back up to the Shabbai Shamayim. Past it, right? Because he had to. He had to go past the Shabbai Shamayim. And that many who believe in him will speak through the Kudash Ruach. Why? He said, stay here in Jerusalem to be given power. Because they doubted when he got out. He said receive the Ruach. But you know, the first time, he's like, You know how you say, I'm going to try again. Stay here in Jerusalem until you get that power. Don't be leaving out of Jerusalem until you get that power. You know how people say, I'm going to get the Ruach. I'm going to get immersed and hear the truth. And I'm going to go out here and teach people and go explain the truth, right? And they be like, you sure you want to do that? Did you get the power? Are you going to be like them people when Shaul say, Shaul I know. Yahusha, Shaul I recognize. Yahusha I know. Who are you? You're going to be like, in the name of what Shaul preached. Right? You're going to be like that. You're going to be like that out here. What he say? You better get your power, or you're gonna mess around. You're gonna get possessed, just like he did. And what happened to them? They went out of the room naked, didn't they not? Them demons stripped you naked, stripped them people naked, made them people run out of the room naked. He said, but make sure you get your power before you go out here and do stuff, right? And you know what people be doing. And you be like, man, what happened to such and such? That's what happened. You better watch out. And it says that many signs and wonders will be wrought in those days. And afterwards, on the eve of his approach, here we go, his disciples will forsake the teaching of the 12 Shalakim. Oh, he said on the eve. So that means, you know how we go toward evening? You know how we talk about a day of Yahuwah going to be a day of darkness. He's going to catch you unawares the 2nd, 3rd watch. When the evening time come around, he may come. It's going to be a day of darkness. He said at the eve of his coming, he said they're gonna his disciples will forsake the teachings of the 12 Shalakim and their amunah and their love and their purity. They're going to forsake it all. Their teachings, their amunah, their love, ahab, and their purity. And it says, and there will be much contention on the eve of the advent and his approach. There's going to be much fighting, strife, dissension, rivalries. That's what you see today. It says, and in those days, many will love office, though devoid of hukmah, wisdom. They're gonna love the office. He said, I love the title, but then they ain't got no hukmah with it. And they be doing all types of stuff they should not be doing, and saying things they should not be saying, and repeating things that other people say they should not be repeating. And there will be many lawless elders. How do you mean lawless? He said, they ain't gonna be doing anything Yahushua said. And you know what it says? And shepherds dealing wrongly by their own sheep, and they will ravage them. What do you mean ravage? What do you mean ravage, right? What does he mean by ravage? He said they're gonna do what? They're gonna ravage them, right? So we're gonna look that word up, ravage, right? That word for ravage. That word for ravage, it says cause severe and extensive damage to. The severely damaging, destructive effects of something. He said who destroys? He said anything you see destruction, destroy, that's Satan, Mastama, and the powers of Mastama. He said ravage. I don't got my other book in here, do I? No, I don't have it. Right, but he said ravage, but it said right here, he said you cause destruction, which means you work together with Mastama, the prince of demons. You work together with Satan, the ruler of Mastama, and Abunalet. And you know what it says? Owning to their not having Kudash shepherds. And many will change their honor of the garments of the Kodashim for the garments of covetousness. He said they're going to be one of other things of other people wives, ox, donkey, houses, cars, Tesla, Twitter account, Instagram. They want everything. They want your whole life. They're going to be covetous of everything you own. Men servant, maid servant, everything. And there will be much respect of persons. How you say partiality and judgment? That's what you see today. Partiality and judgment. Respect of persons in those days, and lovers of the honor of this world. Right? And there will be much slander. Isn't that what you see today? He say, saying things about people that ain't true to ruin their reputation. He say, man, it's going to be so much slander. And it says vain glory, vain kabod. Because Yahushua said, I ain't seek my own kabod. I only seek the kabod of my Father. At the approach of Yahushua, at the approach of the Master and the Kudash Ruach will withdraw from many. He said the Ruach going to withdraw from many. And you know what happened when the Ruach withdraw from you? Right, and going to verse 27. And there will be not, he says, and there will not be in those days many Nabi'im. No, he said many prophets. He said, we got a lot on the day, don't it? A whole lot. We got a lot, don't we? And it says many Nabi'im, for those who speak trustworthy words. Oh, that's why. He said trustworthy. Speak trustworthy words. You know, trustworthy. Save one here and there in diverse places. On the account of the ruach of error and fornication, as idolatry and natural fornication, idolatry and vain kabod, and of covetousness, which shall be in those who will be called servants of that one, and in those who will receive that one. He said, there's different types of spirits out here. And there will be great hatred in the shepherds and the elders toward each other. He says it's on the eve of his coming. You know this ain't got nothing to do. There's going to be wars and rumors of wars. Gog and Magog going to come like this on the thing, and they're going to crash together and do all these things. Right? He's telling you what's going to happen when he get ready to come. This is what's going to happen. This is going to make Yahushua come down here. He said there's going to be great hatred in the shepherds and the elders toward each other. For there will be great jealousy in the last days. He said jealousy. Yeah, you can't do nothing now. Jealousy and envy, boy. You're going to get it. He said, great jealousy and envy. And get what it says. For everyone will say what is pleasing in his own eyes. He said they're going to say what's pleasing in their own eyes. And they will make of none effect the Nabi'im, the prophecy of the Nabi'im which were before me. And these and it says, and these my vision also will they make of none effect. He said, even this book. In order to speak after the impulse of their own hearts. That ain't true. That book, you know what? That book ain't true. And he said, in order to do that. And why did he say that? Right, so the book, this is going back to Yochanan chapter 15, John chapter 15. John chapter 15, verse 2. John chapter 15, verse 2. Actually, John chapter 15, verse 1. Yochanan chapter 15, verse 1. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. He the farmer, right? Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean by the words that I have spoken to you. He said, abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he is that bears much fruit. What do you mean? The fruits of the Ruach. You know those things he's talking about, wash people's feet, and you get all these fruits, you do all these things, or you do good works. For apart from me, you can do nothing. You know, Yahushua said, I can't do this on my own. He said, I can't do it no more. Apart from Yahushua, you was like, I can't do it. Yahushua like, I can't do this on my own. So Yahushua like, you can't do nothing without me. So therefore, how can you do this on your own? How can you bear much fruit on your own? How can you do that? There's no way. He couldn't even do what he did without Yahuwah. So he like, how you gonna be able to do everything without me? He said, if you're gonna do it without me, then you're gonna be like, what type of spirits you got? Right? He was like, how you got that powers and you don't know, how you don't know Yahushua like that? You be like, I know how you got them powers. He said, I'm looking at the book. I know how you got them powers. I ain't stupid. He said, I know how you got them powers. I know how you got them. You don't know Yahushua. I already know how you got them powers. I ain't stupid. You know, people say, I don't want to deal with that. I said, no, I just say it right like how it is. I know how you got them powers. It's not that difficult. Right? And it said right here, if anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. I mean, he said, the Ruach going to be taken from you. He said, I'm going to throw you away. Yahuwah going to give you up. You know how that stuff we read in Romans chapter 1 that everybody be avoiding? He said, not only they do it, but they also approve of those who do it. And you go all the way up there, worship the creature more than the creator. We went over that too. He said, I'll throw you away. I'll let you go do it. Ooh. And then guess what? You know what happens after that? And you be knowing it's the eve of his coming too. He coming. Right? And it says, he's thrown away like a branch that withers, and the branch are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned, just like in the wintertime. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, because once you get the seed, you got to store it up and guard it, because Satan going to come try to take it, because that's all he's going to do, just kill, steal, and destroy. And then envy and jealousy people, if you're reading the Ascension of Yeshayahu, them shepherds and them elders going to come at you behind, they're going to want to take it too. Everybody going to want to take your stuff, and they're going to be companion of him who destroys. They a bunch of destructive people. And then they destroy your household, your family, your finances, destroy your mind, destroy your mental faculties, destroy your growth, destroy everything you have. He's like a schizophrenic out here trying to figure yourself back out, trying to get back to that level that you were before, trying to get your mind back, and then you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, and then it's gonna be all over the place, and then they're gonna give an account for it. They don't think they are, because they think that they're gonna make it. They think they got in. They think they're gonna make it, and then who's you gonna judge them? And he's gonna use the people to judge you. The same people that you did it to, he's gonna put them right there, and he'll be like, yeah, here y'all go. You got all your witnesses right there. And then you're going to be like, where all these witnesses came from? He said, I saw it. I was there. And who's going to pull up the film? You know how the big old screen? He going to hit the button. He'd be like, Yahushua they ain't got no tech. He'll be like, you hit the button. You see all that? They go such and such right there. Because you already know what people have done. And the people say, I ain't do nothing. And he going to be like Manasseh. Or you going to hit the ground and be like, man, Manasseh did more. He more evil than anybody. You're going to be like Asa, right? Do good 1 minute and then start doing it evil again. Then Yahuwah sees with the grave, right? It's all about that. But it says right here, if anyone, verse 7 says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish. and it will be done for you. Think about that. He said, whatever you want. If my words about it, if I'm in you and my words about in you, and you just got it stored up in your consciousness, in your mind, in your mental faculty, your supernatural mind. He said, you know what? Just ask something. He said, and it will be done for you. You know, he talk about manifesting. He talk about manifesting. I'm gonna manifest this life. He said, okay, then pray and then ask for it and see. And it says, but by this my Father Abba is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. So he said that's the only way you're gonna prove to be my disciple. He said, why do you think we was talking about washing people's feet and doing all this stuff and serving people and being Yahusha, like, you lift up my heel, you lift up your heel against me, because Yahusha like the serpent on the ground, on his belly, like a servant. He was doing all this stuff to try to say, who's the greatest among you? He said, the greatest among you should be as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. He was trying to see, he said, you got to bear much fruit. He's telling the woman at his feet, you show much kindness and love. Matter of fact, go in peace and shalom. Your sins are forgiven. All this is a part of his fruit. He said, you bear much fruit to prove that you are his disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. You know what they just said? Remember we just read in the Ascension of Yeshayahu, he said they're going to forsake the teachings of the Shalakim and their love and their amunah. They're not even going to do what Yahushua commanded them anymore. They're not even going to do what he said. He said, abide in my love. He said they're going to forsake this love in the last days. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I kept my Father's commandments and abided in his love. Right, that's all he did. For this is the love of Yahuwah, to keep his commandments. That's all it is. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be fulfilled in you. Why? Because you need to have fruits so that you can prove that you are his disciples. Because that joy is a part of the fruit. That's the third one. Yeah, that's the third one. And that your joy may be full. Right? This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. That's all it is. That's both male and female. They want to just, people say, oh, it was just them. They said, man, it was a lot of people around, right? I'm going to show you one right here. This is another person that was around. This is the book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 1. ESV. This is another person that was around, right? This book of Luke, chapter 1, verse 1. Inasmuch, and he said, he not mentioned that much, but guess what? Inasmuch I have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that I have been accomplished among us, because this is a book written after they got the power. You know how they say? You get the power from the Shamayim. Stay here in Jerusalem to get power. That's how they started writing these books. Just as those who were from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us. It seemed good to me also, having followed all things closely for some times past, to write an orderly account to you, most excellent Theophilus. Oh, you mean the guy in the book of Acts? You know that guy? That you may have certainty concerning the things that have been taught. Oh, you mean like he's giving him a copy of this book to Theophilus, right? So who do you think this book was written to? His successor, like the person that's going to be here after I leave here. Yeah, that guy. But he said in the last day, they're going to forsake the teaching of the Shalakim. He said they're going to forsake everything we said. All the witnesses that we had, all the things. Matter of fact, these people done took the books, changed the books around, them flipped the whole thing around, turned it upside down, mixed it in the blender, put it over here, put it in about 6 different languages, and then put it out here. Right, so only reason we did all that, because going to Bereshit chapter 1, Bereshit chapter 4, and Bereshit chapter 1, verse 14. Bereshit chapter 1, verse 14. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights, or in the expanse, the rakia of the Shamaim to separate Badal day and night. Right? He said, let there be lights. How you going to see light? Well, let me say, let there be lights in the Shamaim. How you going to see them? Right? And let them be for signs and for seasons, for Aoth, for seasons, Shana, and for the Yums and year seasons, for Muads and days and years, right? And let them be lights in the expanse, the Rakia of the Shamaim, to give light upon the earth. Why do you think he told the Shalakim to go in all the world and teach the truth, teach this resurrection of Yahushua Mashiach to the whole world? He was literally saying, you're going to be the light of the world. And when did he do this? And it was so. And Elohim made the two great lights. The greater light to rule the day. I wonder who that is. Because you know, we talked about some women who came to the tomb. Some women who came to the tomb, and Yahushua said, Yahushua risen. He was risen. Then he went when they in the tomb. He said the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. The lesser light to rule the night and the stars. Oh, I wonder who that was. Who was that came to the tomb early in the morning? Aydah. When they came to the tomb, 3 women and a bunch of other women. It wasn't just those other women. It was a bunch of other women came to the tomb early in the morning, Aydah, and they were ruling over the night like they're supposed to, eyes burning and looking, lamp on. They didn't go out at night. And go what he said. And Elohim set in the expanse the Rakia, the Shamaim, to give light or to the earth, to rule or Mashah or Mimshala over the day and over the night, and to separate light from darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the 4th day. He did all this on the 4th day. It was dawning toward the 4th day, when it was evening time on the 3rd day. And he appeared unto him, he said, behold my nails in my hands, in my feet. It is I. And he said, let there be lights in the Shamaim and earth. Let there be lights. Let there be greater light, lesser light. Mim Shala. Ma'or Gadol. Let there be chandeliers. That's what we are. That's what he said, that's what you are. He died he rose from the grave on the 3rd day of Chag Matsah, Pesach. Who do you think he's talking to? Oh, let me guess. He's talking to those who don't know. He's talking to you. He said, who keeps Chag Matsah? Who keeps Feast of Unleavened Bread? Who understands it? Who actually on the 4th day right now on Chag Matsah? He's talking to you. Yeah, you literally like the 1st day. You're literally like the 4th day of creation. He said, I ain't like the 4th day of creation. He said, yeah, you were like the 4th day of creation. That's you. That's how, he said, they should have believed it the first time he said it. They should have. But the only reason they didn't believe it is because they didn't think they had that type of inspirational intellect, neshama, that created them. They didn't think that neshama created them like that. That intellectual inspiration. They didn't think that was the actual ruach that created them. They didn't think it was. But it is. It is, right? So this is the book of, you are the light of the world, right? Right, so this is the book of, you are the light of the world. Book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 13. Matthew, chapter 5, verse 13. It says, you are the salt of the earth. You know, you know how they say, you give the earth flavor. He say, that's the only reason you say, they be talking about all these other people give flavor. No, that's you. He say, what? He said, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltness be restored? He's like, man, you done lost the ruach. You know how he said the ruach gonna depart from many. He's like, you done lost it. He said, used to be the flavor. You know how they said, you ever ate things with salt, without salt, that taste nasty? And you have all the herbs and stuff. You put all them herbs in there, and then you be eating them, and you be like, oh, this is not, need some spice to it. Needs to put some stuff in there. Make that thing kick a little bit. That's you. He said, it is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. He said, when you ain't got no flavor to your food, they gonna be like, huh? You see them people in the store when they go in there and eat their food, they be trashing that store. They throw that thing around. They throw the chairs around. They throw everything, especially when you ain't got the thing right. Especially you don't give it to them when they want it. Man, they trash that place. Verse 14, you are the light of the world. He's like, that's you. You are the fourth day of creation. A city that is set on a hill that cannot be hidden. He said, you can't hide yourself. You know how people say, I want to hide the light. There's no way you can hide the light. Nor do people light a lamp, you mean a menorah, near and put it under a basin, but on a stand. They put it on a menorah. That's you. That's your 7 eyes. You put it on a menorah. And guess what it says? Anybody said about Yuchanan too? You know what he says? And it gives light to all in the house. Notice that he's going right back to the book of Shemot, Exodus chapter 27, Exodus chapter 25. He's going right back to the very thing that people should know. And he says, in the same way, you know how your lamp's supposed to be continually burning, your near, your menorah? That's you. Let your light shine before others. So who are you talking to? The people who understand menorah and near? The people who understand Chag Matsah and Pesach, the people who understand the fourth day of creation, according to how it's written, he's talking to you. Who else he gonna talk to? You sure ain't got nobody else to talk to. He's like, who am I talk to? The people who got a munah, except the woman said, all you got to do is speak the word, and my son will be healed, my child will be healed. She said, I'm a dog. I know I'm a dog. That woman said, man, I ain't never seen nobody with this type of munah on you. He said, your child is gonna be healed. Your child is healed. He's like, man, you can acknowledge what you are and what you are and how low you are and your lowly state. He's like, yeah. He's like, your child healed. They had to acknowledge who they are and what they are and how they're nothing. He said, you're the type of person I want to build my kingdom. Who want to be in my mount cool. You're to that person where I look. Him or her who's of a poor, contrite heart, depressed. He said, that's the person I want to build my kingdom. People say, what type of people he want to build my mount cool? He said, people who need me. He said, I'm poor and needy. You know what David said? He's like, I'm poor and needy. Where am I gonna go? Whoever I shall my name but you. I ain't got nothing. What you talking about? What's up? What else up there? The Hearst star? The Beetlejuice star? That's what you want? You want the Orion? You want Injaru? You want the constellation Pegasus Galaxy? That's what you want? You want the 7 stars, like he said? He said, nah, whoever I shall name but you. Right, and he said right here, you are the light of the world. Nor do people light a lamp and near and put it on a basin, but on a stand, on a menorah, and it give light to all his house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give kabod to your Father who is in Shamayim. They're going to see your good works. How are you going to see it? By you doing it. They see you have that understanding and that representation, and they see you do it, and then you know what they do after that? They say, they kabod Yahuwah in the Shamayim. Why? Because you're doing something for them. It has nothing to do with you. You're doing something for them. So then they forward it. They say, what God do you serve? What's his name? What's his son's name, if you can tell me? Verse 17, do not think that I have come to abolish the Torah. Didn't he say after that? Do not think that I come to abolish Exodus chapter 27. I just talked about Exodus chapter 27, Shemot chapter 27 and 25. He said, I ain't never come to do that. I come to abolish the Torah or the Nabi'im. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I say to you, until Shamayim and earth pass away, not an iota, not one jot or not one little word will pass until the Torah, until all is accomplished. So until he says, it is all accomplished. Therefore, whosoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be least in the Malkuth of Shamayim. But whosoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the Malkuth of Shamayim. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceed, and we just talked about how he exceeded everybody. Unless your righteousness exceeds the scribes and the Pharisees, how your righteousness is going to exceed the scribes and the Pharisees? Your understanding. He said, many have done excellently, but thou excellest them all. He said, how are you going to exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees? Right? And it says right here, you will never enter the Malkuth of Shamayim. You got to exceed them. You got to go past them. Because everything that he's telling people to do, they will not do. Right? Verse 21 says, you have heard that it was said of old that you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable of judgment. But I say to you, I say, whosoever just murders somebody. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. He said, you be liable. Whosoever insults his brother will be liable of the council. And whosoever says, you fool, will be liable of Sheol. Right? He said, why would he say that? So if you are offering your gift at the altar and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there at the altar and go first to reconcile to your brother, and then come offer your gift. He said, offer what? Come to them terms quickly with your accuser. Because Yahushua said, I ain't coming to accuse nobody. He says, come to terms with your accuser. It says, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge hand you over to the guard and put you in prison. You know what happened when the man came to terms when he came to his debt, he choked the man out and threw him in prison. And Yahuwah was like, I forgave you all your iniquity. I forgave you for all your debt. I did that for you. Should you not do that for him? Right. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you will pay the last penny. So you think about your life after the end of this life, right? He said, until you pay the last penny. So how are you going to pay it? Somebody going to have to pay for you. And who going to have to do it? Your brother. That's the only brother going to get you out. He's like, who going to redeem you? He said, your brother got to redeem you. But it said right here, we almost finished. This is the book of 2nd Enoch. 2nd Enoch. 2nd Enoch. Hanuk. 2nd Enoch. 2nd Enoch. 2nd Enoch, chapter 66. 2nd Enoch, chapter 66, and verse pseudepigrapha. 2nd Enoch, chapter 66, pseudepigrapha, volume 1. Volume 1, and verse, 66 and 1. Actually, 66, 66. Actually, 66 and 1. Now, therefore, my children, guard your souls from every kind of injustice. That's improper judgment. Such as Yahuwah hates. He said, any type of injustice. That's any type. He said, impartiality in judgment. That's like bribes. Anything of that sort. And it says, and walk in the front of his face, and with fear and trembling, and worship him alone. It says, to the true Elohim bow down, not to idols which have no voice, but bow down. He said, but bow down to his statue. He's like, bow down to his throne. How you say? It says right here, and every kind of oblation present justly in front of the face of Yahuwah, but what is unjust, Yahuwah detests. He said, don't even do it. He said, that's unjust. That's why I said it's unjust for you to hold somebody debt over when Yahushua gave you for everybody forgive you of your debt. He said it is unjust, and he said if you do it, he said it's unjust to him. And get what it says: for Yahuwah sees everything that a person thinks in his heart. He said he sees everything you think in your mind. He said what? He said I see everything you think in your yetzer, your makashaba, in your he said in your nefash. How you say in your liver, in your kidneys, in your mind, in your cerebrum, your cerebral cortex, in your corpus callosum. He said in your frontal lobe, in your left and right ventricle of your heart, in your hands and your feet. He said I see everything in your body, in your inner man. And get what it says. Then reason advises him. For every thought is presented before Yahuwah, who made the earth firm and settled all creatures upon it. If you look upon the sky, behold, Yahuwah is there. You know how David say? If I'm in Shamayim, if I send to Shamayim, you there. For Yahuwah created the sky. If you look upon the earth, then Yahuwah is there. For Yahuwah founded the earth and placed it upon his creatures. If you meditate upon the depths of the ocean and on and all that is beneath the earth, then Yahuwah is there, because Yahuwah created all things. It says, do not bow down to anything created by man, nor to anything created by Yahuwah, so committing apostasy against Yahuwah of all creation. For no kind of deed is hidden from the face of Yahuwah. He said ain't nothing hidden. Why? Because he could see you with his 7 eyes. He said, walk, my children, here we go, in long suffering. Right? Walk in long suffering. That's what love does. Love suffers long. It says meekness and honesty. For the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Affliction. We just ate the bread of affliction. Distress. So that means in the middle of distress, he says, walk. Faithfulness, right? That's the fifth. That's one of the fruits of Ruah. That's like getting down to the 7th one. Truth. You say, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Hope. You're so tifa. Your hope. Weakness. Let the weak say I'm strong. Derision, right? That's in the middle of the thing. He says assaults. He says spiritual assaults, spiritual attacks. Temptation. He said when you're tempted on every side. Woman is tempted with adultery. Man tempted with fornication. Tempted with bribes. Tempted with greed. Tempted with the cares of this life. Right? Tempted with yourself. He said temptation, deprivation. Right? When you're deprived of things. Nakedness. He said walk. Having love for one another until you go out from this age of suffering, so that you may become inheritors of a never-ending life. He said you got to walk through all this. You got to halak through it. He said I got to walk through all these thorns and thistles and all this stuff. He said, yeah, you got to walk through it. You got to keep going, even when you're weak. You know what he says? How happy are the righteous who shall escape Yahuwah's great judgment, for they will be made to shine, They will be made to shine 7 times brighter than the sun. So you say about the sun is already, the natural sun, is already 7 times brighter than the moon, but they the same size. But he said now your ore is going to shine 7 times brighter than the shamash that was made on the 4th day. Because you know what he said? Except your righteousness exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will not enter the Mount Kuru. The only way it's going to exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you're going to have to halak through long suffering, meekness, affliction, and honesty, faithfulness, truth, hope, weakness, derision, assault, temptation, deprivation, and nakedness. He says that's how you're going to exceed them. And get what it says? 7-fold. Get what it says? 7-fold. Right? You're going to shine 7 times brighter than the sun. For in that age, everything is estimated 7-fold. He's like, everything. Shibatim. Right? Light and darkness and food and enjoyment and misery and paradise and torches and fires and frost and eternal, all this I have put down in writing. So everything, all that is 7-fold. Why do you think we eat Chag Matsah for 7 days? It's sevenfold. So that you might read it and think about it. How you say think about it? You know, people don't want to think. He said, think about it. Verse 60, chapter 67. And then he said, Yahuwah sent out darkness on the earth, and it covered the people in Hanuk. And he had taken up, and he was taken up to the highest Shamayim and became light. It says, word, and when Hanuk had spoken to his people, Hanuk was born, when Yahuwah had spoken to his people, right? So I'm going to skip over that. Right, so only reason there, right, so this is the book of Psalm chapter 19. Psalm chapter 19. I think it's Psalm chapter 19. Actually, Proverbs, mostly Proverbs, chapter 18, and verse 1. Proverbs chapter 18, actually 19, verse 1. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 1. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 1. Actually, go skip to verse 11. 19:11. It says, good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is his kabod to overlook an offense. He said, that's your glory. People say, why Yahushua said, forgive them, Father, but they know not what they do. He said, I don't seek my own kabod. I seek the kabod that comes from the Father, one above. You get what it says? A king's wrath is like a growling of a lion, but his favor is like the dew of the grass. A foolish son is the ruin of his father, and a wife's quarreling is the continual dripping of rain. It says, house and wealth are inherited from fathers, but a prudent wife is from Yahuwah, right? We're going to keep going down to verse... Here we go. Let's go to verse 18. It said, discipline your son, for there is hope. Do not set your heart on putting him to death. A man of great wrath will pay the penalty. He said, you're going to pay the penalty. For if you deliver him, you will only have to do it again. He's like, you're going to have to do it over and over again. And he said he got great wrath, right? You know how you get in the way of somebody? And he's like, man, you might just get out of the way. He said, listen to the advice and accept instructions that you may gain hukmah in the future. Many are in the plans in the mind of man. Here we go. He said, many in the plans, though. You got a lot of plans you want to do, things you want to do, things you want to accomplish. Many are in the plans of Adam, but it is the purpose of Yahuwah that will stand. Right? Verse 22. What is desired in man is steadfast love. Because that's what Yahushua said. He said, love one another. And you have good works, that you may prove, and fruits may bear abundantly, that you may prove that you are my disciples. But he said in the last days, he said people are going to depart from his love. He says, what Yahuwah desired in man is steadfast love, and a poor man is better than a liar. Now you see why Cobb wept. Now you see why Peter wept. The fear of Yahuwah leads to life. And whoever has it rests satisfied, and he will not be visited by harm. Right? He will not be visited by harm, right? He will not be visited by harm. Right, so this is... Okay, yeah. So here we go. This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis. This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis. This is the book of Bereshit, Genesis. This is the book of Bereshit. I think it's 38. This is the book of Genesis. I think it's 38. Yeah. 31. Go to chapter 31. Bereshit, chapter 31. Bereshit 31:22. Bereshit 31:22. And when it was told Laban on the third day, it was told Laban when? On the third day. Right? You know when Yahushua got up? Let's see what happened. And when it was told Laban on the third day that Yaakov had fled, when it was told Laban on the third day that Yahushua was risen from the grave, what did the disciples do after they had that? He took his kinsmen with him and pursued him for 7 days. They pursued him for 7 days. You know what happened? And followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. But Yahuwah Elohim came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, right? You know, everybody, you can go in somebody's dreams, right? You know how people say, I seen your dream, right? You got to be asking about, okay, what type of powers, who you stole that from, right? But he said he came there and dreamed by night, and he said what? He said what? He said, be careful not to say anything to your code, either good or bad. He said, don't even say nothing. It could be good, don't say nothing. It could be bad. He said, don't even speak to him. He said, be careful. Don't pretend and say something good and say something bad, right? But it said right here, and Laban overtook Yaakov. Now Yaakov had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban, his kinsman, pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Yaakov, what have you done? That you have tricked me and driven my daughters, and he said, he have tricked me and driven away my daughters like captives of the sword. Like he just said something, he just made something up. Why did you flee secretly and trick me? Right? He's like, you tricked me. And he said a dog, right? But what did it say? And did not tell me. Why you didn't tell me? So that I might have sent you away with mirth and songs and with tambourines and lyre. And why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and my daughters farewell? And now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. He's like, I can kill you. But Yahuwah, your Elohim, he said, but the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful not to say anything to Yaakov, either good or bad. He said, be real careful. Be real careful. He said, who are you to judge your neighbor? Now, how Laban said, how Shaul said. He said, who are you to judge your neighbor, judge another man's servant? Who are you to judge? All the children of Yashua are my servants. He said, be real careful. And now you have gone away because you long greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? He's like, why you stole my gods? Right? You know, my gods, right? Why'd you steal them? And Yaakov answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid. For I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Now he's answering the first question. Anyone with whom you find gods, now he's answering the second question, shall not live, right? Because he don't deal with that. But he answered the first question. The second question, he's like, whosoever have your God shall not live. Now you see why he says when you eat and drink this cup of Yahuwah and you drink it unworthily, he said you eat and drink judgment on yourself. Because you got them other gods. He said he's going to cast judgment on the gods in Mizraim. Now you see why Yaakov was like, you ain't going to live. And Shaul said, some of y'all have died. And he said, in the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have that is yours and take it. He said, man, you can take whatever you want. Whatever yours, you can take it. I don't care. I'll take the loss. I'm going to suffer loss, but I'm going to be saved, though. Now, Yaakov did not know that Rachel had stolen them. He said, I ain't know. He said he was ignorant. I ain't know Rachel had stolen them gods. I ain't know she still had the gods in her heart. He said, I ain't know she still had the gods in her thought process. You know how Yahuwah says, we just read in the second Enoch, he said, I can see everything in your heart. He said, he know every single thought. He said, I didn't know Rachel stole him. So Laban went into Yaakov's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the 2 female servants, and he did not find them. And he went out to Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel and saddle and sat on them. And Laban felt around about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, let not my master be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me. She says, my menstrual cycle. Was it really her menstrual cycle? So he searched, but did not find the household god. He's like, man, I don't care about your menstrual cycle. He's like, I'm trying to find these gods, right? And he did not find them. Right? Then Yaakov became angry and berated Laban. So now he getting upset, right? Now he just searching for the gods, right? And Yaakov said to Laban, what is my offense? He said, what sins have I committed? What is my sin? Sound familiar? That you have hotly pursued me. He said, what did I do to you? He said, I ain't do nothing to y'all. All you people who practice divination and you other gods you worship and you serve, he said, I ain't do nothing to you. He said, what are you doing? For you have felt through all my goods. You went through everything I had. You seen everything I got. You done went through all my stuff. You done seen everything I own. You done seen it all. So why are you still pursuing me? Right? You can see these people that practice divination today. He's like, what you still pursuing for? You done seen everything I own. You done seen everything I got. Right? You done Googled, text, did everything. Then went on all the things. Done seen everything I got. He said, you don't follow me everywhere I went. You pursuing me. So why you keep pursuing me? Divination practicer. Keep practicing divination. And then he says to me, for you have felt through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? He said, ain't yours. Set it here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. He's like, put it there between your kinsmen and mine, and we decide. It says, these 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flocks. He said, I ain't did none of that. What was torn by wild beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. He said, I took the loss. I'm the one taking the losses, right? For my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. By day heat consumed me, and cold by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. He's like, man, I suffered so much. But what did we just read in 2nd Enoch? He said, in affliction, in vexation, in attacks. He said, walk. Didn't he say that? He said, walk. 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. And you have changed my wages 10 times. He said, you changed my wages 10 times. If Elohim of my father and the Elohim of Abraham and the fear of Yitzhak had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. You would have sent me away empty-handed. It says, Elohim saw my affliction, because he told us in the 2nd Enoch, he said, walk. He saw my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you last night. He said, he saw the labor of what? My hands. You know, my yard in my car, 10, 11. You know, just like the Kyle woman. He said, you saw the work of my hands, and he rebuked you last night. You said, you see all this stuff I did? He said, make sure you be very careful what you say, good or evil, bad. But you see all the stuff he did, and all the losses he suffered, and all the things he had to deal with, and everything he had to go through, and everything that he had to deal with within himself. He's like, do you understand? He was lost sleep day and night. He said, be careful what you say, good or bad. Then Laban answered and said to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters. He's like, it's mine. The children are my children. The flocks are my flocks. And all that you see is mine. It's mine, mine, mine. Mine, 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 right? But what can I do this day for these, my daughters, or their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant. Here we go. He said, I can't take care of them anyway. They all mine, but I can't take care of them. So let's make a covenant. You and I. So when we make a bereath, something out of our mouth, we got to do what we say. We going to do, right? And let it be a witness between you and me. He said, let it be a witness between you and me. And when we do something like this, it's over, right? Once you put Yahuwah's name on it, it's over. So Yaakov took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Yaakov said to his kinsmen, gather the stones, and they took the stones and made a heap. And they ate there by the heap. And Laban called it Jagar Sahar Duthan. And Yaakov called it Galid. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today. Therefore, he named it Galid in Mizpah. And he said, here we go, Yahuwah, right, as soon as you do that, once you do that, it's over. Yahuwah watch between me and you, between you and me, when we are out of one another's sight. Here we go. It's over now. If you oppress my daughters, there it is. If you do what? If you oppress, you mean rule harshly, like we just talked about? The servants. He said, all the children of Yashar are Yahuwah's servants. If you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters. So he literally just bound this man to those two daughters for life. And he says, although no one is with us, so you think about all your life and how many times you put your whole name on a covenant or bereath and nobody was there and you did it in your life. Now, everybody ain't know you who that long, but at the same time, when you do that, understand, though no one was with us, is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. So he just bound them two women to him for life. He said you can't marry nobody outside his two daughters. Then Laban said to Yaakov, see, this heap and this pillar which I have set between you and me, this heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm. He said, you ain't gonna do nothing to me. He got to keep that too. So Laban's house is protected by Yahuwah's covenant that they made together. And Yaakov can go past that pillar. And he couldn't put away them two wives, and he could not oppress his daughters. He had. And get what it said. He said, the Elohim of Abraham and the Elohim of Nahor and the Elohim of their fathers judge between us. And it says, so Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzhak Yaakov and offered a sacrifice on the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. Eat what? And called his kinsmen to do what? Eat bread. We just read in the book of Matthew. So if you have a fault with your brothers, he say, reconcile with them. And by doing so, see what people don't do. When they reconcile and when they come to terms, they don't put Yahuwah's name on it. Because when you don't put Yahuwah's name on it, you know what you can do after that? You can go ahead, you can do it again and again, over again. But when you put Yahuwah's name on it, on your little reconciliation and what you're doing and how you're going to handle it, and you put Yahuwah's name on it, then I guarantee you ain't gonna do it again. If you really like Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. And he said, and then offer your gift on the altar. You know what he just did? He just made a covenant. He said, Yahuwah be judge between me and you. We done came to terms. You ain't gonna press my daughters. You ain't putting them away. I'm not crossing this pillar to do you harm. You're not crossing this pillar to do me harm. We bound this to Yahuwah's name. And then I offer my gift on the altar. And you know what happens after that? You got to honor that. Now, if you don't, who's that on? See, that's the thing. You put your name on it, that's a whole nother ball game. I say that's a whole nother thing. So Yaakov swore in the fear of his father Yitzhak, Yaakov, and offered a sacrifice in the hill country, and called his kinsmen to eat bread, eat the lakam, right? And they ate bread and spent the night in the hill country. And early in the morning, Laban arose and kissed his grandchildren and granddaughters and baraked them. Then Laban departed and returned home. Then they had a feast. They ate some bread. They all had a great time. Then they woke up the next morning. He kissed his children. And everybody left. And everybody came to terms. And nobody crossed that pillar ever again. Because they put Yahuwah's name on it. And then people say, what are you willing to do? He said, you put Yahuwah's name on it, and this thing will end real quick. But you know what people are going to do? Just like Shishni Yeshayahu said. They're going to be just like, they were hatred and all over the place, and they said they're going to keep doing it on the eve of his coming. He said, you put Yahuwah's name on it, it'll end right now. But you see how he ain't put away? He said, you can't put away none of them. Right? And you say, why he did that? He said, because he put Yahuwah's name on it. Right, so this is the book of Malachi, chapter 2, verse 16. He said, why he did that? He said, man, that's crazy. Why would you say that? Right? They said right here, Matthew 2:13, it says, the second thing you do, you cover Yahuwah's altar with tears. Isn't that what the woman did at Yahuwah's feet? The man did, Kof did, all these people. It says, with weeping and groaning, because no longer regards your offering or accepts it with favor from your hand. People say, huh? He said, I need my sins forgiven. He said, what happened at the altar? What happened? But you say, why does he not? Why does he not? Because Yahuwah was witness between you and the wife of your youth. Why do you think Laban and them did that covenant? Why he said, you're not going to pass this pillar, you're not going to press my daughters, and you're not going to put them away. Not one of them. For your whole life. You better not marry nobody outside my daughters. He said, for Yahuwah was witness between, right, it says right here, yeah, sorry. And it says, because Yahuwah was witness between you and the wife of your youth, to whom you have been faithless. And you know, that's one of the fruits of Ruach. Though she is your companion and your wife by covenant, didn't they make a covenant over there? And your code, did your code marry anybody outside them two daughters? He had concubines, but those ain't like his wives, right? Did he not make them one with a portion of the Ruach in their union? And what was the one Elohim seeking? Righteous offspring. So guard yourselves in your Ruach and let none of you be faithless to the wife of your youth. Because you put Yahuwah's name on it. For the man who does not love his wife but divorces her, he said, you better not. He said, you better not oppress my daughters, and you better not marry nobody outside my daughters. Says Yahuwah, Elohim of Yahshua covers his garment with violence, says Yahuwah of hosts. So guard yourselves in your Ruach and do not be faithless. Right? People say, why he said that? Right? They said, why did I go there? Right? So this is the book of 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 26 verse 1. 2 Chronicles, Dabri Hayamim chapter 26 verse 1. 2 Chronicles chapter 26 1. And all the people of Yehudah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. And he built Elok and restored it to Yehudah after the king slept with his fathers. And Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. It said Jechaliah of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yahuwah according to his father Amasiah had done. He set himself to seek Yahuwah in those days of Zechariah, who instructed him in the fear of Yahuwah. As long as he sought Yahuwah, Elohim made him prosper. He said, why would somebody deal treacherously and not, he said, break covenants? It's because they didn't seek Yahuwah. And as long as he sought Yahuwah, he prospered. That's why. That's what happens. And get what happens. And he went out and made war against the Philistines and broke through the wall of Gath and the wall of Yabneh and the wall of Ashdod. And he built cities in the territories of Ashdod and elsewhere among the Philistines. And Yahuwah helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians. These are all the people, you read in Psalms 83, who lived in Gabur, and against the Meunites. And the Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread even to the border of Mizraim, for he became very strong. He said he got real strong as long as he sought Yahuwah, right? Let's see. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and at the angle, and fortified them. And he built towers in the wilderness, and cut out many cisterns, for he had large herds, both in the Shephelah and in the plain. And he had farmers, and vine dressers, and hills, and fertile lands. And he loved the soil. Right? Moreover, Uzziah had armies of soldiers fit for war in divisions, and according to the numbers to muster, made by Jael, the secretary of Maaseiah, the officer under the direction of Hananiah, one of the king's commanders. The whole number of the heads, father's house of mighty men of valor, 2,600. Under their command was the army of 307,500 who could make war with mighty power and help the king against the enemies, right? All that he has, right? But what's the thing? What's the thing that we want to see here? Here we go. And all that he had, right? Where we stopped at? There we go. Yeah. He became strong. But when he was strong, you know how we say, let the weak say I'm strong. Let the weak say I'm a warrior. You know what I'm saying? But when he was strong, he grew proud to his destruction. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. For he was unfaithful to Yahuwah. Now you see why he said, do not deal faithless toward the wife of your youth. Toward these covenants that you make out here. He said, don't be faithless. That's the seventh ruach. That's the seventh fruit. He was not faithful to Yahuwah, his Elohim, and entered the temple of Yahuwah to burn incense on the altar of incense. He said, why doesn't he accept my offering? He said, why don't he accept it? He said, but Azariah the priest went in after him with 80 priests of Yahuwah, men of valor, and they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, it is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense before Yahuwah, but the priests, the sons of Aharon, who are consecrated to burn the incense, but on the sanctuary, for you have done wrong. And it will bring you no honor from Yahuwah, your Elohim, right? Going to the book of Amos chapter 5 and verse 1. Amos chapter 5 verse 1. Amos chapter 5 verse 1. Amos chapter 5 verse 1. It says, hear the word of Yahuwah that I take up against in the lamentations, O house of Yasharal. Fallen, no more to rise, is the virgin of Yasharal, forsaken on her land, with none to raise her up. He said, nobody raised her up. What happened to David? He said, I went to sleep, and I rose up, and Yahuwah sustained me. And I woke up again. I went to sleep and woke up again. He said, awake that sleepers and arise from the dead, and Yahushua will shine on you. I went to sleep, and I woke up again, and Yahushua shine on. He sustained me. But he said, well, nobody to raise her up. For thus says Yahuwah Elohim, the city that went out 1,000 shall have 100 left, and that which went out 100 shall have 10 left to the house of Yasharal. For thus says Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, seek me and live. But do not seek Bethel, and do not enter Gilgal, or cross Beersheba, for Gilgal shall surely go into exile, and Bethel shall come to nothing. Right? Skipping over to verse 11. Therefore, because you trample on the poor, going to verse 11. Because you trample on the poor, and exact taxes of grain from him, you have built houses of hewn stones, but you shall not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink wine. For I know how many are your transgressions, because you know the eyes of Yahuwah can see you everywhere. He can see every thought. He said, I know all your transgressions, right? And how great your sins. You who afflicted the righteous, who take a bribe, and turn aside the needy in the gate. Therefore, he who is prudent will keep silent in such a time, for it is an evil time. Right? That's why when they brought Yahushua, he didn't say not a word. Seek good and not evil, that you may live. And so Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, will be with you, as you have said. Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate. It may be that Yahuwah, we may establish justice. We just read in the second Enoch. He said, get far away from all injustice. But he said, establish justice in the gate. It may be that Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of Yahushua. Therefore, thus says Yahuwah, the Elohim of hosts, in all the squares there shall be wailing. In all the streets they shall say, alas, alas. They shall call the farmers to mourning, and the wailing those who are skilled in lamentation. And in all vineyards there shall be wailing, and I will pass through your midst, says Yahuwah. When they were all weeping, the disciples were weeping and crying. When they thought Yahushua was gone, he said, why are you walking around and you sad? He said, why are you walking around and you're sad? He said, we thought it was going to be the man that's going to redeem Yasharal, right? Because Yasharal been falling, ain't nobody to rise him up. But what did Yahushua do on the fourth day? He said, hand on me and see. It is I. Touch my hand, feel the nail prints in my hands and my side. He said, don't disbelieve, but believe. Verse 18, woe to those you desire the day of Yahuwah. Wasn't that the day of Yahuwah? But let's see how you're going to know it's the day of Yahuwah. Why would you have the day of Yahuwah? Is it not darkness and not light? When did the stars appear? When does the fourth day start? At night. When he appeared to the disciples on the fourth day? At night. What did he do? He say at night? He breathed in the Ruach Qahalath and they doubted. They doubted. He said, it's not a day and not light. It's as if a man had fled from a lion and a bear met him. What do you mean? What happened to a bear? What happened to Yahushua's? What happened to? He said a bear met him. He fled from a lion. Why would a bear meet a man? Right? Why would a bear meet a man? Right? This is the last couple of things I'm doing. Right, this is the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 5. Actually, no. Yeah. 2 Samuel, chapter 17, verse 5. Then Absalom said, call Hushai the Archite, and let us hear what he has to say. And when Hushai came to Absalom, he said to him, "Thus has Ahithophel spoken. Shall we do as he says? If not, you speak." Then Hushai said to Absalom, This time the counsel Ahithophel has given is not good." Okay, he was telling him to pursue David. And he said everybody gonna scatter away from David. And he gonna get discouraged. And everybody gonna leave. That's what happened when they came to get Yahusha, he said, "Let these men go." Everybody left. And they all walked away from him. Even Peter denied him. And what happened after that? Kof denied him. And what happened? And Hushai said, "You know that your father and his men are mighty men." He said, "You know they are. And they are enraged like a bear robbed of her cubs in the field." Why do you think Yahusha came back? Why do you think he came back to them? He's like a bear robbed of his cubs, and he came right back to his disciples because they robbed him, and he came back. And you know what he said? "Besides, your father is an expert in war. He will not spend the night with the people." What did Yahushua do when he came to them? He appeared to them, he opened his hand, and then he said, "Shalom be to you." And then he vanished out of their sight. He vanished right out the room. And then what did he say? "Besides, your father is expert in war. He will not spend the night with his people. Behold, even now he has hidden himself in one of the pits or in some other place." He's like, where he at? He done hid himself. Man, he vanished right out of their sight. He's like, where he at? He gone. Imagine they put him in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. They're like, where he went? They all made counsel, the scribes and the Pharisees, and they all were trying to seek him out. And you get what happened after that? "And as soon as some of the people fall at the first attack, whoever hears it will say, 'There has been a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom.' And then even the valiant man whose heart is like the heart of a lion will utterly melt with fear. For all Yasharal knows that your father is a mighty man, and that those who are with him are valiant men." He said, why do you think they were afraid? He said, "We know that Yahushua is a mighty man, and we know all his Shelakim, his disciples with him, we know they're mighty men too. But my counsel is that all Yasharal be gathered to you, from Dan to Beersheba, as the sand of the sea for a multitude, and that you go to battle in person." Right? So we came upon him in some place where he is to be found, and we shall light upon him as the dew falls on the ground. And on him shall all the men with him, not one will be left. Why do you think they were hiding inside? They were hiding inside the house for fear of the Yahudim. Remember? They all met together. They were in fear of the Yahudim. And then what he said? "If he withdraw into a city, then all Yasharal will bring ropes to that city, and we shall drag it into the valley, until not even a pebble is to be found there." And Absalom and all the men of Yasharal said, "The counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel, for Yahuwah has ordained to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, so that Yahuwah might bring harm upon Absalom." Right? The only reason I went there, this is the book of Lamentations. This is the book of the last thing. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 141. I believe it's 141. I believe it's 141. 141 and I believe it's 141. Yeah, Psalms 141. I think it's 142. I think it's 141 and 142. Psalms 141 and 142. I think that's it. Psalms 141, actually. something there. No, Psalms 130, sorry. This is the last thing. Psalms Tahlim 130 and 1. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Yahuwah. O Yahuwah, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my pleas for mercy. If you, O Yahuwah, shall mark my iniquities, O Yahuwah, who could stand? He said, who's going to be able to stand if you mark my iniquities? But with you, therefore, there is forgiveness. Why do you think the woman was at his feet? He said, your sins are forgiven. He said, with you, there's forgiveness. It says, that you may be feared. How are the fear and the dread of you going to be on all the people when you don't forgive nobody? Why do you think the people say, who are you to forgive sins? How is it going to happen? And it said right here, I wait for Yahuwah, my soul waits. What are you waiting for? And in his word I hope. My soul waits for Yahuwah more than a watchman. More than a watchman for the morning. He's like, more than a person who been waiting all night to get off their job, to get off their night watch. He said, I wait for you more than a watchman of the night. Because you know what we're supposed to do is not that much watching. It's a not much watching every day, but when he rose from together on the third day, that woman was already out there. He said, I'm waiting for you. She said she was seeking the person she loved. She said, I was waiting for you. I was waiting for him more than a watchman of the morning. More than a watchman of the morning. Right? That's what he said. O Yasharal, hope in Yahuwah. For with Yahuwah there is steadfast love. That's what he desired in man. It's steadfast love. That's what he told the disciples. You're going to prove that you're my disciples. You have love one for another. And with him is plentiful redemption. That's what he did on the fourth day. That's what he did this day. He said it's plentiful redemption. And then what did he say? And he will redeem Yasharal. Why do you think he confirmed it on this day? Why do you think he confirmed it on this day? And he will redeem Yasharal from all his iniquities. Why do you think he did it on this day? The woman was watching for him that night. Early in the morning, she saw him. It was dawning toward evening, another watch. They all were in the house. And guess what happened? He confirmed it to them. Look at my hands and look at what the nails in my hand. You don't see a ruach have flesh and bones as you see. Handle me and see it for yourself, that I have redeemed Yasharal from all his iniquities. Unless you're waiting on to get off your night watch. So even that, he said, even your watch, you know how you say it's a night of morning watching? Even your watching has to exceed that of a watchman. A regular night watchman. You have to exceed him. You got to wait on Yahuwah even more than he wait for the morning for him to stop working and be up all night. He goes to sleep. He said, you got to be, your righteousness, your watching, even your watching got to exceed them. He said, if your righteousness don't exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, he said, you'll never be able to enter the Malkuth, because it supersedes anything that people would ever imagine in their heart, in their mind, and yet their imaginations. Right? So you look at all that, you look at Yahushua Mashiach, he said on the fourth day of Chag Matsah, confirming his covenant in the midst of the week, right? So this is the book of, he said, how you can confirm it in the midst of the week? By doing it at nighttime, in the second and third watch. Right? This is the book of Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Right? Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. And you know how he make his covenant in the midst of 1 week. You know when he make a covenant, you know what that means? You can't alter it. Just like your code couldn't alter that his oath that he swore to Laban. This is 9:27. And he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week. And for half of the week he shall put an end to the sacrifices and offerings. He said, it is finished. I did it. And on the wing of abominations, on the wing of abominations shall come one who make desolate, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator. He said on the wing. What's that word? 9. What's the word for wing? And amazingly, this is the 19th day. Right? This is the 18th day of the first month. This is the midst of the week. And you know the 18th letter of the alphabet is? The Sod. And you know what the Sod means? What's that word for? Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Daniel chapter 9. I'm looking for that word for wing. Going real quick. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. That word for wing actually it says an overspreader. Is kanaf. That word for wing is kanaf. It means a bird or army, a wing, a bed clothing, a flap, a pinnacle, a border, right, of a building. Because the only reason I said that, because that word for Sod, which is the 18th letter of the alphabet, which is the 18th yom of Chag Matsah, it means wing. It means wing. It means wing. And he said, on this day, he said, I redeem all Yasharah from all their iniquities. But he said, but at the same time, let there be lights in the Shamayim. He gives light, he separated the day from the night. He said, let it be, he said, Ma'or, Gadol, Ma'or, greater light, lesser light, chandeliers in the Shamayim, that it may mean Shala over day and over night. And you saw the lights, they were good. And who all ain't brought this? He said, he baraked that day. He baraked the fourth day. And he said, it was good and very good. Knowing that on the fourth day of creation, he gave it for signs, seasons, days, and years, and muads. Knowing that these times, we offer sacrifices. But he said on the fourth day, he said, what a better, great time to let them know that on these seasons, these times, these seasons, and these days and these years, you no longer have to sacrifice any of Yahuwah's creatures and none of his offerings anymore. The only thing you have to do is present your bodies as a living sacrifice, kudash and acceptable. But we know that in the last days that men were going to depart from the teachings of the Shalakim and their purity and their love and their generosity and their honesty that they had in their heart and the teachings of the Shalakim and forsake the commandments of Yahushua. But knowing that this life that we must live must be lived according to our inner man and not our outer man, and that our light in our inner man and our inner being and our inner faculties may be illuminated within our heart, that the nafash, how you say that nafash, it may be illuminated by the neshama, and that the neshama may be resonate inside of our being and our thoughts, and that life may be inside of our body. Knowing that that life was breathed into us when Yahushua HaMashiach on this day said he breathed on them, he said, receive the Ruach Qahalath. Why? Because he was breathing on them the very breath of life, even as he breathed Adam. And by breathing on them the breath of life, he allowed them to be reborn again. To be reborn again, because he redeemed Yasharah from all of their iniquity. And by doing so, he said, they that believe on him, he said, you are not condemned. He said, you believe on Yahushua Mashiach, he said, you will be saved, and you will walk according to his steps. For who have much power to redeem you from the grave? He said, who gonna settle it in one day? He said, I'm gonna settle the matter in one day. And by him settling the matter in one day, he put out his hands and he said, feel them and see for yourself. You do not see a basar, a man, a nafash, a man. You don't see a ruach that have flesh and bones. Handle me and see for yourself. And even though you can look at Chag Matsah, he said when Yahushua rose from the grave, what was the one thing that he needed to prove that he was alive? It was in the middle of Chag Matsah. And amazingly, when Aydah was under the tree, and when Yahuwah came to him and he was under the tree, and he was like hoping that he would die because Isabel was pursuing him. And after that, he saw a cake on a rock. And he said, eat this cake in this rock, for it's going to sustain you for 40 days and 40 nights. And amazingly, what do you think Yahushua ate when he got out from the grave? And how long was he seen by his disciples? Right? So we look at ourselves, and we look at our inward man, and we look at our inward being. Because all these are a part of the belief of Yahuwah Elohim. For all these things that we see and understand, we understand by our inward man. And through this understanding, we know that Yahushua Mashiach is risen. And he said, it's back in your remembrance again. How you say Zakar, right? A Zakur. For 3 times a year shall all your males be pure before Yahuwah. Zakur. How you say joined to a tent peg. And amazingly, he stretched out his hands. And when you go back to the Bereshit, the beginning, he says, Zakar Wu Nakabah. How you say male and female. Right? Because the only way anything can rise up from the soil, from the ground, it has to be planted in a feminine earth. And by the feminine form, producing a seed, taking a seed and allowing it to spring up and producing another body allows us to understand why he said, now this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called a Shah after he rose from the grave. And by understanding this, when he appeared before his disciples, he confirmed everything to them. And by confirming it to them, it let them know that everything he did and everything he wanted to accomplish for Yasharal have been fulfilled. And he said, wait here to Jerusalem till you would receive the power from on high. So we look in this world, we live in this world, we are not of it. And through this truth, we know that Yahushua Mashiach is risen from the Adamah. He's risen from the Adamah. We know if we believe on him, we're covered in his blood and covered in his covenant. And it's a strong covenant that cannot be altered and it cannot be changed, even as Yahuwah does not change. Right? For the meek shall inherit the earth. Right? Meek shall inherit the earth. Right? This is all of Yuchanan 2:24 through 28. Let what you heard from the beginning abide in you, because this is all how it happened on the 4th day of creation. And this is the 4th day of Chag Matsah. And if what you heard from the beginning abides in you, you will be in the Son, the life of the house. Because Yahushua said, I come to you my life and have it more abundantly in the strength of the house, the Father. But he said, I don't seek my own kabod. I only seek the kabod that comes from the Father above. That's it. And this is the promise he has made to us, eternal life. I write these things about those who are trying to deceive you. But the anointing you received of him abides in you, and you have no need that anyone should teach you. But as the anointing in you teaches you everything, and it's true, and it's no lie, just as it has taught you, abide in him. And now, little children, abide in him, so that when he appears, you may have confidence. You will have confidence. And not shrink from him in shame at his coming. He said, you have confidence. Right? Because you know when rain comes, when the storm cloud comes, and it rains on the earth, and the sun rises, why would you shrink? Why would you go back down in the ground? Just like a plant you see. Why would you do that? Right? You understand that naturally. And you understand that by your Ruach man. Right? So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward thoughts, and we look at our inward thought and inward understanding. We live not according to this world, but according to the world to come. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.